My mom found out my income, so she showed up with my spoiled brother and demanded I give her all of it. I'm not talking about a loan, not a small gift, not even a percentage. She wanted the entire first six-figure paycheck I'd ever earned in my life, all $125,000 of it, to fund my brother's failing entrepreneurial dreams. And the worst part? She brought him with her, sitting on my pristine white couch, his face a smug mask of entitlement, expecting me to hand over the fruit of 10 years of grinding labor like it was spare change. Tell me honestly, if you were me, watching your entire future being swallowed by the one person who should have been your biggest supporter, would you have done what I did next? Because I'm still wondering if I went too far, but in that moment, seeing the greed in their eyes, I knew I had to draw a line in the sand, a line that would change our family dynamic forever. Let me take you back to the beginning, before the explosive confrontation. My name is Alex, and I'm the eldest of two. My brother, Marcus, is 3 years younger, and the difference between our upbringings, despite sharing the same parents, was night and day. I've always been the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who saw the value in hard work and saving. From the moment I was old enough to babysit, I was hustling, delivering papers, working 2 jobs in high school, and eventually putting myself through a top-tier computer science program with scholarships and student loans, all while working part-time. My parents, particularly my mother, were always moderately supportive, but her focus was always on Marcus. Marcus was the creative genius, the free spirit, the one who was too smart for a traditional job. In reality, Marcus was a classic spoiled brat. If he wanted something, he threw a tantrum until he got it. If he failed at something, he blamed everyone else. I watched him coast through high school, barely graduate, and then embark on a series of disastrous business ventures over the next decade, each one more ridiculous and expensive than the last. There was the artisanal sock company that folded in 3 months, the custom drone photography business that resulted in him crashing $10,000 worth of equipment, and the crypto scheme he convinced my dad to sink their retirement savings into, which, predictably, evaporated overnight. My mother never saw his failures. She saw a visionary who just needed a bigger break. She was always on the phone, guilt-tripping me into lending him money for rent, for a crucial piece of equipment, or just to cover his bar tab, always promising he'd pay me back when his big break came. He never did. The total he owed me was somewhere north of $15,000, a figure I eventually wrote off as the price of peace. I stopped lending him money about 2 years ago, a decision that caused a major rift. I told my mom I was done enabling him, and she called me cold, selfish, and unfamilial. I swallowed the insults and focused on my own life. I spent the next 2 years working harder than I ever had. My current job, a grueling but high-paying role in software development, required 80-hour weeks, sleepless nights, and constant travel. I lived frugally, drove a 10-year-old car, and saved every penny because I had a goal: to pay off my crippling student debt, pay down my mortgage, and finally have a real safety net. I hit a major milestone 2 months ago. My company was acquired, and as part of the deal, I received a significant stock payout and a massive performance bonus. The net result, after taxes, was an immediate wire transfer of $125,000, a life-changing amount. I was ecstatic. I remember staring at the number on my bank app, feeling a wave of relief and triumph wash over me. This wasn't luck. This was blood, sweat, and tears. I called my dad immediately. He was proud, happy, and swore he wouldn't tell anyone. Unfortunately, he told my mom. He's never been good at keeping secrets, especially from her. I found out he had broken his promise a week later when my phone blew up with a series of aggressive, entitled texts from my mother, texts I decided to ignore until I could process the best way to handle the situation. The way she had found out was bad enough, but the sheer speed and audacity of her demands were what truly shocked me. She didn't call to congratulate me. She called to stake a claim. Her first text, and I quote, was, "Alex, Marcus has the chance of a lifetime, a real chance this time, to launch his new high-tech dog-walking app, Poochpath. He just needs the initial seed money to pay for the developers. Your bonus is God's gift to him. I expect you to be a good brother and transfer the money immediately. I didn't respond. The next day, she showed up unannounced. That was the day of the confrontation I mentioned in the beginning. I had just gotten home from a late shift, still in my work clothes, and there she was, standing on my front porch, Marcus lurking awkwardly behind her, both of them dressed like they were about to accept a large check at a press conference. I let them in, mostly out of shock. My apartment, which I'd bought cheap and was slowly renovating, felt immediately invaded. Marcus sprawled on my newly cleaned white couch, pulling out his phone and scrolling without so much as a hello. My mother skipped the pleasantries. "I'm here to discuss the $125,000, Alex," she stated, her voice sharp and uncompromising. "We need it all. Marcus's business plan requires a full $250,000, and your father, and I can put up the rest if you handle the initial hurdle. Think of it as investing in your family's future." The sheer arrogance of the demand stole my breath. "Mom, no." I finally managed, my voice strained. "That money is my future. It's paying off my student loans, and it's going into my retirement fund. I worked for 10 years for that money. It's not a slush fund for Marcus's latest flight of fancy." Marcus looked up from his phone, a smirk playing on his lips. "It's not a fancy, Alex. It's a revolutionary platform. You just don't understand innovation. You're just a code monkey. You can make it back. You make so much money already. What's another $100,000? It's pocket change to you." The term code monkey hit me like a slap. Pocket change. The decade of sacrifice, the missed holidays, the anxiety attacks, the sheer exhaustion, it was all pocket change to them. That was the pivotal moment, the flashpoint where I realized this wasn't about the money anymore. It was about respect, about recognizing my worth, and about finally saying no to the systemic enablement that had ruined my brother's life and constantly undervalued mine. My hands started to tremble, but I forced my voice to remain calm and steady. "Marcus, you still owe me over $15,000 from your last 3 failed ventures. That money was not pocket change. This $125,000 is not on the table. You will not get a single penny of it." My mother's face went scarlet. She stood up, towering over me. "How dare you? We raised you. We gave you life. This is the least you can do for your struggling brother. He is family. You are betraying your family for a number in a bank account. You are heartless, Alex." She was yelling now, her voice echoing in my small living room. Marcus, sensing the tension, finally put his phone down and started chiming in with, "Yeah, Alex, you're being a real jerk. I thought you had my back." So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Here they were, standing in my home, the 2 people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, demanding I sacrifice my stability for their entitlement, using guilt and emotional manipulation as their weapons. Before I tell you what happened next, what I did to completely flip the script and send them packing, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have caved to keep the peace? Would you have offered a small amount just to get them out the door? Or would you have gone scorched earth, like I was now considering? I looked from my mother's furious, red face to my brother's petulant, accusing one. And then, a strange calm washed over me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just completely, utterly done. I walked over to the kitchen island, picked up my laptop, and brought it back into the living room. "You want to talk about money, Mom? Let's talk about money," I said, my voice dangerously even. "You think I have an endless well of it. You think I can just make it back. You think I don't understand innovation. Well, let me educate you." I logged into my bank account and brought up the transaction history. I turned the screen to face them. The first line was the $125,000 deposit. The second line, dated 2 days later, was a massive outgoing payment. $108,000, I narrated, pointing to the screen. That was to pay off the remainder of my student loans. The debt I accumulated because you wouldn't fill out financial aid forms correctly because you were too busy telling Marcus he didn't need college. Their eyes widened, stunned. My mother started to protest, but I didn't let her. I scrolled down. The next transaction, $15,000, I pointed out, that was the final payment on the principal of my mortgage. I own this apartment outright now. Something I've managed to do in 5 years, while Marcus has been launching 6 companies. The last $2,000, I explained, was split between my emergency fund and my retirement investment. So, Mom, I said, leaning in, my voice quiet but piercing, there is no $125,000. There is no slush fund. There is nothing left for your genius son. I spent it all on myself, on my stability, and on the security I had to build because I knew neither of you would ever provide it. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by my brother's sharp intake of breath. He looked genuinely sick, not just at the thought of losing the money, but at the sudden realization that I was completely unshakable. My mother's anger curdled into something uglier, genuine panic and a desperate need to save face. You can get a loan. You have assets now. Use the apartment as collateral, she stammered. You can still help your brother. That was the final insult. No, Mom, I said, shaking my head slowly. I can't. Because I finally learned the lesson you never taught me. I have to put myself first. I paused, letting the full weight of my words sink in. And since we're talking about money, Marcus, I turned to my brother, who is now staring at the floor. I want that $15,000 you owe me. The money I lent you for your businesses and rent over the years. Paid back in full, with interest, within 90 days. Get a job. A real job. If you don't, I will file a civil claim against you for the full amount. The look on his face shifted from entitlement to pure terror. He knew I was serious. He knew I had the means and the motivation to follow through. My mother erupted one last time, screaming about how I was tearing the family apart, how I was dead to her, how I would regret this. I calmly opened the front door. You two need to leave my fully paid-for apartment right now, I told them. I wish you both luck with the dog walking app, Marcus. But you'll be funding it with minimum wage jobs, just like everyone else. They left, slammed the door, and the ensuing silence was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. My mother didn't speak to me for 6 months, communicating only through furious, one-sided texts that I immediately deleted. My father was caught in the middle, but he eventually called me, crying, to tell me he was proud of me for standing up for myself. Marcus actually got a job, a delivery driver for a logistics company. He started paying me back in small, consistent installments, not out of respect, but out of fear of the legal action I had threatened. The PoochPath app was mentioned a few times but never materialized. I'm now financially secure for the first time in my life, debt-free, and I own my home. My mother and I have started speaking again, but the dynamic is permanently changed. She asks me about my life. She doesn't demand my money. The relationship is distant, but it is finally one based on respect, or, at least, a healthy fear of my boundaries. I no longer feel the crushing weight of their expectations. My $125,000 didn't fund a pipe dream. It bought me my freedom. So, that's my story. That's how a big paycheck turned into the biggest confrontation of my life. I had to choose between my brother's lifelong pattern of reckless spending and my own hard-won financial security. I chose me. I chose my future. I wouldn't change a thing. Like this video if you are on my side and think it's essential to set boundaries, even with family. Subscribe for more stories like this, where the good guy finally wins. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.